Usually, by the time I'm talking to them, people have a lot of ideas about what they want to do. Often people will bring to me a folder full of photographs from magazines or photographs they've taken, or they might take me to see a certain house. Or if it's a renovation, they've been living there and they're thinking about what's there. The kind of classic architectural approach is what's called the program, where you ask your customers to articulate what they want. You make a distinction between the idea that you would say, I want an exercise room. That's not the program, that's the solution. You'd get them to say, I need to be able to exercise. That would be an example of the program. You try to identify the needs, the way you live. And I also get people to give me a sense of what their resources are like, because what often happens in design is people design extravagant projects, then they have to cut back. It doesn't really work. And then there's the site. My personal belief is tuck it into the site. I'm always trying to get people, well, think about a one-story house, or think about a house that's kind of stepped back, not too massive. You know, build it into the trees, leave the trees there. It's the lay of the land, where you're going to get water. It's how far are you to the electric pole. It's a lot about the solar orientation, and you're trying to find, you know, where on the site you can build that works from a solar point of view, which means you want to have if possible, you want to get the long side of your house facing south. You want as much as possible let the land do the work for you, and you don't want to be fighting with what the landscape is. I am still an advocate of conventional stick building, up to a point. Not always, not in every case, but I think it's a brilliant system. It was the original owner-builder system in the 19th century, and it displaced timber framing for a very good reason, which is it's strong, it's fast, it's easy to change, it's adaptable. Kitchens for many, many years have gotten bigger and bigger and more bloated without necessarily getting better in any kind of functional or aesthetic sense. And in fact, they've gotten bigger for the sake of being big, and that's somewhat true of houses. We certainly see a lot of houses around here that are really what people call McMansions. They're huge, but they don't have any kind of coherence as a design. I'm really interested in order in building. You know, that's what's appealing about Japanese design or Shaker design or your old Vermont farmhouse. These folks here in this house that we're in right now wanted a house, and they didn't have a lot of money, so they were open to thinking about how to use their resources efficiently. I think it's great to work for people who have some economic constraints, because I think the results come out better. If you're working for someone who really can afford whatever they want, sometimes you might come out with a wonderful result, but often you won't come out with such a good result. If you're trying to do something affordable, it's got to be relatively simple, or you've got to have a lot of time on your hands to do it yourself. What we try to do is slow people down and get them to think from a different premise. How do you live? What do you need? People come to me because there's something in the way I build that appeals to them. And if they go to some other builder, they're going to get that builder's take on things. So every house that I do is a little bit like this house. And it's what sort of warms my heart in some way.